Definitely carp. Huge carp. Huge carp. Look at him. Look, right there. Yeah. All right. Go, gadgets, synchronize. All right. So today on Animal Education Podcast, we are going to talk about cryptids.
Yeah.
And so first of all, because there's another layer to it, but explain what a cryptid is.
All right. So cryptids are basically animals that we have no evidence of existing, but that some people believe exist, or there's evidence in air quotes of those creatures existing, accounts, rumors. So the big ones are obviously Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, that sort of thing. But it could be more obscure, like Mochilium bembe. That's still kind of popular, but it's like a sauropod from Africa, or even some extinct species that are still believed to be alive, like the thylacine or the Tasmanian tiger. If it's still around, it's kind of.
I saw an article, and this isn't a cryptid, but I saw an article today that people still believe dodo birds are out there.
Yeah, that would technically classify as a cryptid.
Yeah.
I mean,
so
kind of a lame.
So kind of
cryptid.
think Saskatchewan or Bigfoot or something.
What?
Saskatchewan.
Sasquatch.
Yeah. Sasquatch.
Oh, and there's like a whole thing where like that's based off like the Saskatchewan, like the native name.
So think of that stuff.
Yeah.
But what we're going to kind of cover is some of those, but what they could be
or
really,
just are. Because a lot of them are pretty obvious once you get into
so
the
it's
details.
like, well, there are animals out there that people may be mistaking for this thing, or that have been proven that they're mistaken for this thing, or what in nature could explain the cryptid effectively.
Another good example that I did bring, but the okapi, like that weird like zebra-looking giraffe relative from the rainforest.
Yeah,
we did not discover it until the 20th century.
Right.
They found evidence of like the stripes from the hind legs. And it was
Didn't they think it was like the forest ghost or something? They would call it.
It was like actually declared a species in 1901.
Yeah, because they're so like reclusive. I guess would be the word.
Because they live in the dense Congo and they're really skittish.
Yeah. So anyway, that's our theme for today. Cryptids, but kind of taking that scientific perspective of what could really be going on here. So what is our first? Now you have a bunch of creatures laid out here. Are all of these? Are some of? It looks like some of these are cryptids, and
three of these are cryptids. 4 of them are real animals.
Okay.
Right now they're laying out.
Okay, so I'm gonna guess here.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the things with many heads. First of all, are cryptids.
Many head? What do you mean many heads?
Many heads.
Okay, the Hydra has many heads.
Okay, well, Hydra.
What do you think the heads are on this?
Oh, well, from the back, it looked like...
Oh, those are the tentacles.
Those are the tentacles. Okay, there's the face. There's the eyeballs there. Yeah. Okay, so
this guy.
So I'm going to say Hydra.
Yeah.
I'm going to say giant or colossal squid or whatever.
Well, that's the real one, Dad.
Oh, okay.
So, but that's the Kraken.
Kraken. That's what I'm looking for, the Kraken. And this...
That's the last one that we have the cryptid of.
I'm going to say that's... the thing that chases you in the maze.
No, that is not a minotaur by
Minotaur, not a minotaur. Oh, no, that's not a minotaur. You're right. That's not.
Where's the horns and the human legs?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say that's just a lizard person.
No, that model is of the chupacabra.
Oh, chupacabra. Okay.
Yeah. But we're not going to worry about any of that right now.
Okay.
So first of all,
and then we've got 4 real animals that we'll get to, but that's
2 of them are related to cryptids with them.
Okay.
2 of them are related to other cryptids.
Okay.
And then one of the cryptids is related to real animals.
I guess I could have shown
the Hydra, yeah.
Or Hydra.
So first, what is this? What is this guy, Dad?
He looks like George. I would call him George. He looks like a George.
What species is it?
Oh, walrus?
No.
Sea lion?
Nope.
Seal.
It's more closely related to elephants, actually.
Oh. In the river, get hit by the props. The thing. That's sea cow, water cow, pond cow.
Yes, that's what they call
lake cow.
What's its actual name, Father?
George.
It's on there. Read it.
Oh wait,
it's just on the bottom.
Oh, this is a manatee.
Yeah,
that's a manatee.
Oh,
I knew that.
No, you did not know that. Okay, so why for this cryptid episode have I brought up the manatee?
Yeah, I mean, manatees they're like docile creatures. They live in like rivers and stuff and eat seaweed.
Yes, and this is specifically a West Indies manatee, Indian manatee, which means it's from like Florida and South America, like
the West
Caribbean.
Indies.
Yeah. So, as adults, they can reach about 8.9 to 11.5 feet long.
Okay.
So they're quite big.
Yeah.
440 to 1,320 pounds,
which seems kind of slim for that size.
Yeah, I mean, they can live up to 50 years, so they can live a while.
Okay.
I said where they live. There's two subspecies, the Florida manatee, which is more often found in Florida.
Right.
And the Antillean manatee, which is found more southern, I think.
Okay.
And then also, its scientific name is Trichias manatus. I don't know if I said that right.
Trichias, so 3 something.
Trichicas. Maybe it's like the 3 limbs.
Maybe 3 flippers.
Because it has the 2 hands. Okay. Which also, if you look really closely at that, you can kind of see they look like an elephant's foot.
Yeah.
And that's because they are related to elephants.
Okay.
Well, like sea lions are more related to like cats and lions or cats, like cats and dogs and bears.
Okay.
Manatees more closely related to elephants and hyraxes.
Okay.
Hyraxes are related to elephants. It's a whole thing. Everyone looks at it like, huh?
They do kind of look like if you left an elephant in the bathtub too long.
Yeah. But so what cryptid do you think? Okay, so basically,
Oh, I think I know.
Okay. So the thing is that when Christopher Columbus came over with all his dudes, they saw these sometimes from a distance. Okay. And they thought it was something else.
And they were probably lounging on rocks.
No, they don't lounge. They don't actually.
Oh, they don't come out on
rocks.
They
do not come out of the water.
Okay, but they just saw them in the water. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna say,
and this would happen because there's also another species of manatee in Africa.
Okay.
And dugongs live off of Australia.
Okay.
And the Steller sea cow was an extinct species that lived off Alaska.
Okay.
Well, specifically Steller Island, like that's why it's called Steller sea cow. I know, crazy.
Okay.
So, what do you think this inspired?
I'm gonna say, well, first I'm gonna say a siren, but I'm really gonna say mermaid.
Mermaid, yeah, it's mermaid.
Okay.
So I think siren's a little more out there, but yeah.
Siren's a little more.
But that's the right track. But so basically, people saw this
and thought mermaid.
This action.
Wow. So they thought very attractive human female fish in a bikini. Wow, they had been at sea a long.
Yeah, it takes months to cross the Atlantic.
They had been at sea a long time.
But actually, even with that, some cultures actually, I'm not sure exactly which ones, but they actually think that manatees may be connected to mermaids.
Okay.
I know that this is kind of crazy. I watched a Go Diego Go episode of all things. Yeah. That episode featured the manatee.
Right.
And at the end, when he got to the ocean, he transferred into a merman. So, I believe there is like some. I think maybe in like the Americas and Africa, there's like some connection that manatees can become mermaids or something like that.
One of the mythologies. Or whatever.
Like they're connected to the mythology. So so that's our first cryptid, manatee or mermaid.
I would not have put that together myself because I would have thought it was. I mean, they always represent mermaids as these thin, slender, idyllic figured, shell.
But say we got this big
with
cutie
long,
pie
with long flowing hair. Where's the long flowing hair? Maybe they had seaweed because they were eating it and it was trailing.
They eat like seagrasses.
Yeah, seagrasses.
Yeah.
Wow, long time at sea and really poor. We needed glasses back then. We needed to invent glasses. Okay. Well, wow. That is not one I would have made the connection with. That's kind of interesting.
Right?
So what are so sea cows? They live in rivers and they eat the grass
or like coastal waters.
Coastal line. So do they keep kind of that population of seaweed and stuff under control?
Yes.
So it doesn't like take over.
A lot. That's just most herbivores. They eat plants and they don't overpopulate in general. That's just kind of the thing that happens.
And do they live in warm climates? Obviously, they don't have to migrate or anything.
Actually, it's that because of how temperatures are. If there's a cold snap.
Right.
They can die from a cold snap.
Oh.
So, they're actually... There's a couple things. They will migrate to, like, hot springs specifically in, like, colder months to stay warm. And also, they've taken a liking to power plants. Like, the waters off of power plants. Yes.
Yeah.
That's actually saved manatees is they've gone to a power plant, like, off the coast of a power plant.
So, we used to water ski in the river here.
Yeah.
and there was a nuclear power plant. So the water was always warm.
Yeah.
Okay, contrary to popular belief, that is not because the water is radioactive.
No.
They use the water to cool the reactor.
Yes.
So they suck the water in, it absorbs the heat, and then they pump it out, just
no
like your air conditioner works at
there are
home.
no mutant manatees or anything.
So no, there were no three-eyed fish or talking fish or anything.
No manatees becoming mermaids.
But yes, no manatees becoming mermaids. But the water was generally nice. Warm, which probably would also encourage the growth of sea weeds and
that's
plants
one thing
and
though
stuff
because like farmers will fertilize their fields and all like the nitrogen and stuff will flow into the waterways. That will cause algae blooms.
Okay.
Which will like cover the water.
Which suffocates everything.
And gets rid of the oxygen. Yeah, that's killed like there's been some nights where like 100 manatees have died overnight because of like an algae bloom or cold snap.
So when we talk about, the caring for the waterways and fertilizers, it's not just the fertilizers, the poisons or whatever going in the water. It could be natural fertilizer. It could be totally
because it's too much.
It could be duck poop or cow poop or pig poop, which is it's not going to kill anything. It's just fertilizer, but it's too much fertilizer, which overstimulates the growth of certain things in the environment, which then it ruins the balance.
You were just telling me you know nothing about animals, and look at you just.
Well, this isn't an animal thing. This is I used to go into a river and go, why is there so much? I'm never falling off the skis again. Just keep going until we hit a pier. But so I know that stuff because I was like, I ain't getting in there, and somebody had to explain it to me. So it's not just use natural materials in your fertilizing and that kind of thing. It's also what are you putting in the soil and the environment around you that's just upsetting balance? Everything's balance, really. That's really what we're seeking. Okay. So anyway, that was my little. I didn't pee in the river. It was the nuclear power plant.
Okay. So the next up, we actually have a pair. So we have the cryptid, which is the kraken.
Okay.
This is just a random mini.
Yeah, and the kraken was this thing that pirates of
sailors
and stuff would think that would just come up and consume pirate ships. They just thought that they were these big, giant, tentacled things that desired, for some reason, to consume canvas, wood, and swords. And gold bullion. For some reason, that was what they had an appetite for. And so they would tell tales of these things. So where do we think those tales came from?
Well, actually, we kind of just do know.
We kind of just know. Yeah, this
is the giant squid.
Yeah.
So you now see this is a little toy.
Yeah.
How big do you think a male is?
Okay.
Which is
now
smaller,
you got me on the last episode of something about how big is the whale. There was a whale. It was how big was the thing. So I'm gonna say. So
the giant squid, by the way. And let's do the males first, length and weight of a male, because they're smaller, by the way.
I'm going to say this part, which is about 50% of his body.
Yeah.
Body and main tentacles. That this part is about 50 feet. So I'm going to say 100 feet.
Okay, stop. You're going way overboard.
Oh, well, because you got me last time.
They're still big, though.
Okay.
So... From tip of these two long tentacles. So to be fair, octopus have the 8.
Okay.
Squid have the 8 plus these two longer ones.
Okay.
So from the tip of the longer tentacles to the anterior fins.
Okay.
This is what actually gives them the movement. Is these back here.
Okay.
This, as a male, would be 33 feet long.
Oh, yeah.
And this is the giants. So colossals are bigger, but also colossals are fatter. We don't have a colossal squid.
Okay.
But they're like fat. Like this part's really fat.
Now, but that brings up another point. So, first of all, when you say they're really fat, they live deep in the ocean.
Deep.
When they would come up, generally because they died or something went wrong,
here's the
pressure was much less at the surface, so they would
also they would die if they're still alive. Like they would be
because
dying.
They would bloat so much.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the colossal squids are like not this one. The colossals already look bloated in their anterior as it is.
Okay.
And so when they came up, their giant body floats up, hits the boat. Their dead corpse is hitting against the boat.
Yeah.
And the pirate's like, "Oh my god, we're getting attacked by a kraken." Nah, it's just
the kraken's like, please Save me.
Yeah, so it's just a giant squid that's dying.
Okay.
But they are big, so 33 feet in the males.
Okay.
And the males can weigh up to 330 pounds.
Which, again, for that big, isn't that... I mean,
Yeah.
you would
Also,
think they'd weigh a lot
I don't
more.
know if it's this or the colossal. Their eyes are the size of basketballs.
Yeah, like...
So they're the
this big,
largest
yeah.
eyes in the animal kingdom.
Okay. And now, because they live it so deep, there's no light.
Yeah.
So they have to have huge
eyes,
photoreceptors, eyes, to see what's going on. Now, you said that the fin over there is the movement. Do they the same as like octopus squirt to move? And then this is how they steer, or
I think it's I
similar.
think it's
And they have a beak, like so they use their tentacles to draw food into.
There's
their
a beak in there, yeah.
Okay. So they crush things open.
Yes.
So they eat shelled,
or just fish. They'll also just eat fish,
yeah,
but they can eat more like mollusks and things like that.
Okay.
Another thing, these guys are big enough. I think they tend to eat more like other squids and like the bigger fish.
Okay.
But
okay.
Also, guess what eats these?
Oh, there's a whale.
The sperm whales.
Sperm whale, yes.
And we can, because we know. So, sperm whales eat the squids, but they can't digest the beaks.
Okay.
So they form this like weird thing. What's it like?
Like an owl pellet.
Yeah. What's that called? It's this weird thing.
Sperm whale beak poop pellet.
Yeah. It's called ambergris.
Okay.
And the thing is, it has a very unique scent. So it's poop. It actually goes out the other, but it's not digested.
Okay. So not like a owl pellet. Where
it's really expensive because it's used in perfume.
So
it's really expensive.
So digested colossal squid beak
ambergris,
covered in sperm whale feces.
Mm-hmm. Low quality ambergris is $10 to $30 a gram. That's low quality. Large pieces can be incredibly valuable, with reports of multi-million-dollar sales for kilogram-size finds.
Fines. They refer to it as a fine.
Yeah, because you find it in the ocean.
It's whale poop. It's whale poop.
Yes. But also it's really cool because they have fights. Like we see the scratches on the whale. We always wanted, like the goal of like the crazy scientists is to record that. That would be a nature documentary. That would make millions.
Right.
Like, yeah. But also, so I was talking about the males being big.
Yeah.
How big do you think the females are?
I'm going to say bigger.
Yes, but like how
So instead of 30 feet, 50 feet.
No, 39 to 43 feet. So
okay,
longer.
Okay.
But guess what they weigh?
500.
606 pounds.
See, last episode, I was over.
Yeah,
I was underestimating.
Well, you just underestimated it again.
I was underestimating. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So, big squids. Yes. And so
that explains. So that's kind of the Kraken. It makes sense that if you had not been out, I mean, we're starting to explore oceans, and you're out in this little wood.
What is it? In 1861, some giant squid was found, and the scientist there was like, okay, so we just found the Kraken, guys. Like, he literally said that. He's like, we found the Kraken. That's it. It's right there. Also, yeah, so colossal squid. They're shorter. They can only get up to, like, maybe 33 feet. So, like, maybe, like, the lower end of a female. But their weight can be, like, 1.5, like, 1,500 pounds.
Oh, okay.
So they're shorter, but they're a lot heavier.
They're like...
Yeah,
they're like the Arnold Schwarzeneggers of the deep sea.
I'll show you. You maybe put a picture up.
Yeah,
they're little fatties.
Yeah,
maybe you should buy me the $33 figure on my eBay wish list, Dad. we should re-record the episode. No,
so this is one where you can really, I mean, you can see that they would go out and the portion of this creature that they would see, they would be like, oh my goodness, this is a giant sea god, a giant sea creature, and it's here to consume us. I mean, they had, from their point of reference, there was nothing on land.
Yeah.
And there was this big, huge, uncharted ocean. So I'll give them this one.
Yeah.
That these tales came, you know, here be monsters.
This next one's really interesting, and I really like this.
Okay.
So we're not going to worry about the figures right now.
Okay.
I want you to look at this photo. This little guy. Well, the big guy.
Okay,
This is the Magpinugari.
Magpinugari. So it just
Okay.
looks like a big, huge, furry
Guy.
gorilla,
Big guy.
but standing more human, perfectly
But there's a
human
couple
form
important things
and
about
built
it.
like an army tank.
Okay. A couple important things I want to bring up.
Okay.
Big. It's a smelly. I don't know if that's really important for my point. But
Okay.
the big thing, two big things I want to bring up is that allegedly it's kind of bulletproof
Okay.
and it has one eye.
Oh, it's like a cyclops.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Now, this is interesting. I watched a documentary,
Okay.
and this guy was doing research into it. He's talking about the cryptid, all the different versions found across Brazil. It's South America, like Brazil.
Right.
And though he decides to take a bunch of animal pictures, extinct, modern, all that, and show it to one of the guys that's allegedly seen one.
Okay.
Okay. And he's scrolling through, and it's like lion, no, giraffe, no, Bigfoot, no.
Right.
It comes to a giant ground sloth.
Okay.
And the guy's like, yeah, that looks like it. Now, here's a few interesting things about giant ground sloths, specifically Megatherium, which is the biggest one.
Okay.
20 feet long, 8,200 to 8,800 pounds.
Wow.
Big guy. Big
Okay.
guy. Like, it's the really big one at the Fume Museum. You
Okay.
remember?
Yeah.
The big skeleton. Yeah. Big. It
Okay.
actually had evolved special bones along its back, like on its like back and spine,
Okay.
that kind of acted like chainmail.
Okay.
So maybe that made it kind of bulletproof.
Oh, so the bullets of the day.
Yeah, so like arrows and stuff.
Yeah.
And from the side, because it's an herbivore, it has one eye on each side of its head. Also,
okay.
this was around 5 million to 0.01 million years ago.
Okay.
So like late Ice Age,
Okay.
our ancestors hunted it. We have evidence of us butchering it, hunting
Right.
it, all that stuff. There's a theory that there's two theories. The more out there theory is that a Megatherium or related species giant ground sloth is still alive in the rainforest.
Okay.
Because if it could hide anywhere,
Right.
it's the rainforest.
Right.
The more logical theory, it's a cultural remembrance of this species.
Okay.
That the natives in South America saw this, and over time the story changed.
The story evolved.
And eventually
Okay.
it became what is known as the Magpingawi.
Okay. Okay.
So I think that's a really interesting cryptid.
So, because I got to read articles to try and keep up.
Uh-huh.
So I was just reading that they have proven through testing, however they scientifically, experiments, that if the parents of something have a fear of something,
Mm-hmm.
that innately the children, so genetically, even if they weren't raised by the parents, they weren't raised in that
Yeah.
environment, they have a fear of that thing. So aside from tales being passed down,
Uh-huh.
genetically we can get certain psychological recognition and fears and things, so anyway,
Yeah.
just because
and
that
in
related
South
to
America,
this.
if there's
Yeah.
a 4-ton sloth that can rear up and kill you in one swipe and might be bulletproof, quote unquote. I mean, think about bears can survive a shotgun shot.
Yeah, so think
like
of
30
arrows.
arrows.
Arrows or
So-
muskets or whatever. We're not going to get through this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And these giant sloths were they were herbivores.
Yes.
And
Now, maybe like most herbivores,
Well,
once in
they
a
could-
while, maybe
yeah.
they come across a kill and they're like, ooh, free food. But yes.
for the most part, they were herbivores. And obviously kind of reclusive, quiet,
Yeah.
solitary.
Yeah,
I
probably
assume,
solitary.
for the most part.
Maybe small groups or mating pairs. Like, I think maybe we've seen evidence of like a pair in a cave.
And they're
of ground
probably,
sloths, so,
and they
yeah.
were obviously very slow moving.
Yeah. And yes, they are actually related to modern sloths. Like, that's not a
Okay.
misnomer or
Okay.
whatever. Like, that's actually a
Actually, what
thing.
they were.
Yeah.
So
Relative. but
So
yeah.
if there's small populations of them,
Also, that's the same group of anteaters. If you
Okay.
look at a giant sloth and you're looking at anteater, and then
Right.
you can kind of see
the resemblance.
Yeah.
So they would be easy to miss. And I did another thing I was just finding out. So the deep ocean, I think we all know the deep ocean we've not explored it nearly as much as we've explored
Kraken.
Kraken. Okay. But also the Amazon is an area
Yeah.
that as much exploration as we have done, we've barely scratched
We find
the
new
surface.
species in there every day.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, it's usually plants and frogs and insects,
right.
but
But
sometimes
it's a very unexplored area.
and even
realistically.
genetics, like we recently found that population of anacondas constitutes a different species.
Okay.
We found that different populations of like small jungle cat, like an ocelot or a jaguarundi, like
Right.
we've seen that there's been genetically distinct enough to call new
There's
species.
a good book
The Okapi.
about a jacarundi that I will
Yes.
show you, and you should.
We should write more books.
We should. It was a really good book.
We wrote it.
It was
He's
written by
plugging us,
people
by
you
the
may
way.
know, plugging our own book.
He was plugging.
And it's
Shameless
but it's-
plug time.
But it's really
Yo.
good. But it's a good I think
It's a good
story.
children's book. And Jaguarundi I mentioned, always
Yes,
good.
and Jaguarundi.
Do you even know what that is?
And,
Because I only know about it because of one book I had as a kid.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen it a couple times in books when I've grown up. I've been like,
Yeah. So anyway, shameless plug.
yes.
Bing, 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 bing. Okay. So, but yeah, the Amazon, like the most, I'm going to guess it's one of the most richly diverse.
Yeah. There are tribes in there we still don't have contact with.
Okay.
That like either they don't want it or we just don't contact.
But I mean, just from a nature perspective,
Yeah,
think
about
like the
Piranhas,
Yeah.
the giant arapaimas, like there's big snakes, like 20-foot anacondas, there's
Yeah.
a giant arapaima. And so all the legends of them being like twice as big. Okay.
well, and there they are.
yeah.
Because of the
I mean,
environment.
they're not that big.
Because it's like it's a higher oxygen content.
Yeah.
It's always got the correct.
The fish that
temperature and
swims
moisture.
up people's wieners
Yeah.
is in there. Yeah. We won't talk about that.
Okay, piranha story. So we went behind the scenes at the aquarium, see the piranhas. And
zoo actually, but yeah.
Well, the zoo, see all the different fish in the swamp. Okay, and the guy was so excited to show us the piranhas, and he sticks his hand in the tank and flushes the water around, and all the piranha run over to the corner. Piranha eat dead flesh.
Yes.
They are terrified of anything that moves.
Yeah.
So if you put like a minnow in the tank with a dozen piranha, go home and come back in the morning, the piranhas will be huddled in the corner and the minnow will be king of the tank.
If there's a perch, like a perch will kill some of the piranhas.
Yeah, because the piranhas are like, we don't know what to do with something that
Now,
like moves.
there are exceptions. Obviously, there's been
yes.
I believe there have been freak accidents where like a ship has sunk and the piranhas have attacked.
Yeah.
They've learned that like there's in young egret, like if they fall out of the nest, they can grab them.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
obviously, I'm not saying jump in a piranha
Right.
pool, but like they're not as scary as we think.
Yes.
And there's a big relative to Pacu, like big.
Yeah.
Like this is like not even the tail, like big.
Right.
They eat only nuts.
Yeah.
Like they don't even
Well,
eat flesh.
I'm a nut.
No, like we're talking like
I get. Yeah.
like
Legumes or nuts. Actual
Yeah.
nuts.
and they crack them open with their mouth.
Yeah. So nature is so much weirder, which is why these cryptid things, it's like you can see how people coming across something for the first time were like, okay, in my mind, I have created this because I got to come back and say that the fish was this big.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have to say that the threat was this big. That's just how that's how men's minds work on a boat, apparently.
Yeah, and even this fish was 40 feet long, and I caught it after 20 hours of fighting. 800 piranhas attacked me. A giant ground sloth threw poop at me from the riverside.
Something about
And he caught like a fish that's like 2 feet long.
something it's like
I even did this once. One time we were at the Morning Arboretum doing fishing, because like with a group you can catch a release.
Yeah.
And like a 2 or 3 foot carp jumped out at us. It was a big carp.
but
it was still a
it
carp.
was a big carp.
Maybe it wasn't even 2 or 3 feet long. It was a big
but
carp.
it was a decent
and
sized
it
carp.
beached itself on us, and we're like, we caught the biggest fish.
Yeah, jumped
But
out of the water.
I would tell tales later. They're like, we caught this like 3-4 foot long carp, jumped out at us.
It's just men in water.
I think it might be a genetic thing. Yeah.
See, it's
Yeah.
because the caveman would come home with nothing and go, "Honey, you're not gonna believe what
There
I
was
saw."
80 mammoths, 27 smilodons, and 5 terror birds, all playing chess.
Oh Lord.
Okay.
And really, if you think about it, give me a cryptid. I challenge you. Come, tell me a cryptid whose story originated with a woman. Go ahead. I'll wait.
It's because they're smarter. This is a compliment, by the way.
This is a compliment,
Don't
right?
sue us.
That's right. This is a compliment to women.
Okay.
The men were all like, everything's this big when I go out.
Okay, so maybe the next couple things will stay on the land for the most part, so we can, So the next cryptid, we're talking about, like, I don't know what years it was. It was in Puerto Rico and Mexico.
Okay.
They were finding goats dead goats.
Oh, I know.
And they had
this guy.
Yeah, the chupacabra. And they had 2 holes in their neck, and their blood was drained.
Mm-hmm.
What could possibly be doing this? And people saw weird sightings of these weird furless abominations. And there's all these different versions of the chupacabra.
Okay.
This scaly, hairless abomination going around sucking the blood out of goats and sheep and livestock. So, what do you think caused that?
If it weren't a chupacabra. If it weren't,
Or, like, what is the chupacabra? Like, what do you think is the chupacabra?
So...
we're thinking about, like, southern North America, Mexico, Puerto Rico. So, like, no lions, no tigers, no...
Well,
elephants.
I mean, there is the vampire bat that drinks the blood of cows.
Yes, but also... No, it's not... Nothing to do with vampire bats.
Okay.
Also, vampire bats are really tight. They're not killing it.
That's what I say. They're so
They don't
tiny,
even kill
they,
it, usually. They just drink some blood and leave.
They just tap,
Yeah. They have saliva to make it numb.
Not coagulate. To numb it and not coagulate.
So, and then the cow's like... Later, it's like...
He's like...
I got a paper
what
cut.
Yeah. So, let me see. Something bigger...
But so chupacabra's...
A snake of some sort.
Nope.
Oh, no, because it wouldn't have legs.
Nope.
Not a bear. I mean...
Okay, hint. It's on the table.
A coyote?
Yes. Now, you may be asking, coyotes would eat the prey. Coyotes have fur.
Right. And coyotes don't drink blood.
Here's the thing. Have you heard of mange?
Oh, yeah.
Mange
Okay.
is a skin parasite.
Okay.
Well, it comes from a skin parasite.
Okay.
The thing becomes weak, it's sick, and most importantly, it loses its hair
Okay.
to become completely, or like partially or completely hairless.
Okay.
So this is the theory. The chupacabra is a coyote with mange.
Okay.
That was too weak to eat the animal.
Oh, so it kind of sucked on it.
Yeah, and sucked the blood out.
Okay.
And it was hairless because of the mange.
Okay.
So that's the theory and because coyotes are very common in those areas.
Yeah.
So the theory is that the chupacabra is a coyote with mange.
Okay.
Which I think that's interesting.
Okay.
It's not just an animal.
Right.
Like the past 3, it's just been the animal.
They mistook this animal for that animal.
But this time, it's specifically a coyote with a disease. And think about it, that's not common.
Right.
It's not rare, but it's not common.
Right.
And the chance of a coyote with mange finding a goat and drinking its blood and then leaving.
Right. Would make for the unique, why no one ever caught one in the act, per se, or... Yeah.
So that's the theory.
Okay.
That the chupacabra is a coyote with mange.
Okay. All right.
Which I think that's interesting.
I think that, so it's, that's
so
cool.
because the thing that started this podcast was specifically the squid one and the chupacabra one. The kraken and chupacabra.
Okay.
And then later on, I found these other ones to talk about.
Cool.
Yeah.
No, that is intriguing. So it's a very
and
specific
coyotes
circumstance
are like,
of a coyote.
Males are 18 to 44, females are 15 to 40 pounds.
Right.
They're like 3 feet to 4 feet long. I mean, that's the right size for a chupacabra.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously people might embellish them a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the theory about the chupacabra.
All right.
And you can kind of see the resemblance, like in this version of the chupacabra.
Yeah, the head and the...
shrink the legs a little bit, take the spines off. Maybe that's some fur that
it could be a
off.
they have that kind of, their hackles.
Yeah,
maybe
the hackles
maybe that was the last thing to fall out or something.
So yeah, you can kind of see it.
Yeah. All right.
Obviously, he's not doing this weird Egyptian dance. I'm not sure why they made the mini like that, but yeah. Okay, now
backing out of
this one's really interesting. I think there is evidence to it, but like I kind of just thought of it on my own to wrap up the podcast.
Okay.
Look at that last cryptid.
Okay, so this is the that's the
Hydra.
The Hydra. So,
yeah.
So if any of you are into like the
Greek myth or Hercules or whatever.
Yeah.
A snake
Hydra.
monster. With
so
many heads.
and the myth of the mythology of the Hydra is every time you slice off a head, two more grow
Okay,
back.
I have no answer for that. That's crazy.
Well, no,
Those
but
people
I'm saying that's
yeah.
the mythology. So that's why it's got so many heads.
Yeah.
Because everybody who ever tried to fight it in the mythology, when they would whack off a head, two more would grow back immediately. So you could never really kill it.
Unless you light it on fire.
Yeah, but I mean, you couldn't just whack off its heads. You couldn't just behead it. So.
So, what do you think inspired this? Do you have any explanation for this? Why would we come up with a multi-headed
A bunch
snake
of snakes in a pile.
Nope. That's not my theory. Have you heard of polycephaly?
I've never met her. I hear she's a nice girl.
It occurs in humans and many other creatures. Polycephaly.
Two kids.
Kind of.
Stuck
that
together.
could cause it.
Siamese.
That can cause this, but specifically condition of two heads. Which yes, is usually in the womb. There's monozygotic twins or embryos that have fused.
Okay.
And they and they survive.
And they share something, so they may have two heads.
And in this case,
organs
it might be
or something.
Two heads, yes.
Yeah.
And this is actually still very common in certain creatures. Not common, but like I know there's a YouTuber with two turtles that each have two heads.
Oh, okay.
But here's the thing. Guess the most signature common thing. I've even seen it in person before. Of something with two heads. Which has made me think
fish or snake?
Snake.
Snake. Okay.
There's I know there's an aquarium with an adult, they've raised it up, it survived.
Okay.
Obviously with human care.
Right.
Help,
It's
but
it's not something that's going to really typically make it in nature.
Yes.
Typically.
But the point is, two-headed snakes are just a thing.
Okay.
We've encountered. It's a mutation or two embryos have fused.
Right.
But it's a thing.
Right.
So a stretch that one day some guy saw a two-headed snake.
Yeah.
And was like, that's a monster.
Right.
Yeah. So I think there is actually theories about that. But
Okay.
I came up with that on my own for this podcast.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense.
The Hydra might be based off two. Also, there are two-headed snakes. That's not a myth. They did not cut off a snake's head and stitch. No.
And two grew back, right?
No. Or they didn't cut off the head of a snake and stitch it to the other one and say, I have a two-headed snake, guys.
Right.
Of course, the only time I've seen it was in a kind of sketchy zoo at Wisconsin Dells.
Right.
But the point is they are real, is my point.
Right.
So I think that inspired the Hydra.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
And I think that would be a cool one to edit off on, kind of my more personal.
Yeah, that's kind of a
kind of like the chupacabra, where it's not a normal animal.
Right. Yeah. But this is one where we can specifically say you can see what would be considered a Hydra in Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I think there's a zoo in Michigan that has an adult they've raised up. And is going strong. Yeah. And it could be any species of snake, or turtle or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or humans can have it too. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything can have it. Just very rare. And typically without assistance isn't going to survive.
Yes.
Because the two heads can never decide what they want.
Yeah.
For dinner.
The thing is that adult in Michigan and that aquarium is very rare.
Yeah.
It's they've worked very hard to keep that thing alive.
Right.
And also make sure it has a good quality of life.
Right.
Because some of them won't have a good quality of life, so zoos like that will keep it alive.
Yeah.
But I might sneeze.
Because then
Bless me. Okay.
All right. Well, that was very cool. That was very interesting. I mean, it's our, science's perspective on everything has an explanation.
Here we go. Okay.
And we were just watching The Librarians, and you made a comment, and then literally 4 minutes later, the character in the show said it. You said magic is just that which you can't explain yet.
Yeah.
Those exact words the character then said 2 scenes later.
Yeah.
Because one of the characters in the show is a scientist.
Yeah.
So it's the more we learn, the more we come to understand, yes, these things, maybe they don't exist exactly as described, but there are things that exist that these people saw at that time, and it was so unusual to them that they gave it a different name and put a mythology behind it.
A lot of mythology is just to explain the natural world.
Yeah, exactly.
Why the sun moves, why the seasons happen.
Exactly. So, all right.
Yeah.
Well, that was very cool. I enjoyed that one. All right. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Pino's out.
Maybe next time, Dad will make you work.